Hi Aries, I hope you guys are doing great. This is going to be a general reading for Aries, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus for the first 2 weeks of December 2019. Welcome to my channel. My name is Jackie. Thank you so much for joining me. We're going to be focusing this spread on the full moon in Gemini because it is bringing us into a new cycle on December 12th. A couple of other transits happening in December, guys. December 2nd, Jupiter is entering into Capricorn, and this energy opens up beautiful things for us if and when we approach things with integrity and a very moral and mature approach, right? It's a time to definitely be flexible and not to be too self-serving. And then the other transit is December 9th. Mercury enters into Sagittarius, which is all about fairness. What's right, what's wrong, what's fair, what's not. And that's a really cool transit to happen a few days before the full moon. That full moon now that we're having, it's exactly opposes the Sagittarius sun, which is right across the street, right? They're opposite each other. So this energy is all about finding the balance between your logical mind, Gemini, and the greater quest for meaning and experiences beyond where and who you are right now. So it's a lot of looking at, where can we grow? Where can we be better? So this full moon is a time of culmination. And the new moon wishes that we all made, hopefully, coming to fruition. It's an emotional time for sure. I mean, lots of romance. Fertilization, though, there's a lot of growth here. Relationships. There's a definitive sense of emotions bustling up to the top where we're going to feel the need to express ourselves. But just know that not everything is going to make perfect sense or seem completely rational just yet. The only other thing I wanted to mention about this full moon before we pull your crowning is while the full moon is squaring Neptune, occurring when Mars forms this trine to Neptune, which is going to give us a very creative, very visionary, very intuitive energy. So for those of you who are the creative types, awesome energy. But Venus is between Saturn and Pluto right now. And Saturn is the great taskmaster, for those of you who don't know, right? We call him the father of the sky. And Pluto is all about pushing us to release core truths. It's about transformation. So Venus is kind of trapped in between these two. So Saturn is pushing her to release any of these core truths, like lies that she says to herself, or any sort of sabotaging behavior, or anything that maybe she's not seeing that she needs to see. Right? And these things are no longer serving her. We're all going to be going through it. And it's in a way to level her up. So we're all going to be feeling it, but especially those with personal planets and points at approximately, and I want you to check your chart when you have a minute, 16 to 24 degrees of mutable signs. So even though you guys are a cardinal sign, chances are many of you have mutable signs within your birth chart, right? So if you're an Aries sun, that's just the archetype of your consciousness, right? There's only one room in your house. So the mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. And again, 16 to 24 degrees. So just check those out. But guys, very light, beautiful energy happening this month. Light, beautiful energy. Release the dark wound. Let love live. Oh boy, I'm liking this card for you, Aries, because I think I got a very creative sort of vibe for you guys the last reading. So I really like this card because I think it's actually an important one. It's an important lesson for everyone. This says, this can apply, what I'm going to say can apply to a creative project for those of you who are the creative types, and that could mean anything that you're creating. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece of art or anything like that, but anything creative. But this can also be how you view relationships. And this is about, think about if we detach something from its source too soon, trying to force it to become what it's not yet ready or willing to become, we can unintentionally zap away its strength and kill it. It's like this dark wound in the human condition where many people demand perfection and they don't want to go through the process of it. It's this constant comparison. So let me break that down real quick. It's like those of you who want to write a book, and maybe you started writing a book, and you're comparing yourself to somebody who's published 10 books already and is on like Amazon's best-selling list, right? Those of you who want to write a screenplay and you're comparing yourself to Martin Scorsese, or it's something like that. Those of you who are wanting to get into a relationship, or you're in a relationship and you're very trapped in this nexus of comparing your relationship or your process within the relationship to somebody else's. It's this comparison, and it's the comparison that is that dark wound. And it's about really what that breaks down to is deciding that you're not good enough or worthy enough to succeed before you've even given it everything you've got. And before maybe you've asked for divine help, right? Because if you do have yourself in this nexus of self-doubt and comparison, it's like the dark wound has you in its grasp. But you have to let go of that death grip of perfectionism and let yourself and your ideas and your process flourish. Because love is abundant, creativity, inspiration, willingness. There's enough to go around, guys, right? This is a big life we live in. There's enough to go around. And it moves us so much more productively and creatively and just productively, right? When you're honoring your own path and your own process, right? And just put the blinders on to what everybody else is doing. It's kind of cheesy, but they say only compare yourself to yourself, like the best last thing that you did. So really, like, release this false belief. There's just countless stories of, having to do with career, right? For sure, countless stories of vastly successful artists who nearly screwed things up for themselves with that one project that ended up making their career because of their despair, fostered by their own dark nature. And it's because they doubted and they weren't certain. Was their work any good or was it useless? And they struggled to believe in the right of the work to basically come to life, whether it was accepted, revered, rejected by others or not. And they nearly lost their work to fear. No doubt there have been many times when this has actually happened and the work was not saved, not allowed to live. So you don't want to let this happen to you. And you don't want to forego what could be a beautiful relationship because you want things to be a certain way. It's just about the process and not comparing. And regarding something with career, whether something is meant to be commercially orientated or just a personal creation of your own, for your own healing and your own process, you have to let it be. It has to be allowed to be without judgment, without criticism, without premature evaluation. It just has to be allowed to be what it's really meant to be. It's really meant to be. I do want to say real quick, this is like, to me, I always view this as like the tale of my two brother-in-laws, right? So I have my one brother-in-law, John, that's his name. He was one of the original writers on the show Saturday Night Live here in New York City, and he was very successful many years ago. And then he wrote a movie, and he shopped it around, and a lot of people wanted to pick it up, and they wanted to give him financing to do it. And the thing is, he was so stuck, though, in his idea of what his perfection was supposed to be that he didn't even want to hear any sort of outside criticisms. He was so insecure about his own work, but also so dug into what he believed he needed it to be. It went on many, many years. He ended up making it, ended up flopping. It ended up not being a good thing because he was so stuck in his own way and had his own idea, and he was just so afraid. And he should have ended up he was such a talented guy and just ended up getting in his way the rest of his life. Then my other brother-in-law, who is Ray Romano, everybody loves Raymond, he's somebody who was very insecure from the get-go. Never lost sight of his craft, never lost sight of his material, but did welcome in other people's perspectives and did allow himself to open up. And, those of you who know who he is, if you don't know, you can look him up. I mean, his career trajectory speaks for itself. But it's just this idea of, like, they're both in the entertainment industry, kind of in the same way. I mean, they're both in the comedic area, and just how their perspective and their way of handling things and their way of handling their insecurities and their fears and all of that ended up just faring so differently for them. So just very, very interesting card for Aries to get, particularly because of I have to tell you, I mean, a lot of Aries are very, very creative, and they're really kind of in this space of creating. I mean, I just right off, I've just doing a lot of readings and stuff for Aries. I have to tell you, a number of people I worked with very recently, writing books, writing screenplays, trying to get their art out there, clothes designers, writing poetry. Yeah, I mean, just a lot, yeah. All right, so let's get right into a Celtic cross spread for you guys. I'm going to be interpreting it for both career and for personal. Could be intimate relationships, family, friends, whatever. And then at the end, I'm going to pull specifically a few love oracles for those of you who are in no contact or in a weird situation, and those of you who have been in a relationship for a long time. So let's get right into it. 10 of Pentacles, Aries, beautiful. This is the situation right now that you're dealing with. So you're very abundant in your headset, in the way you're perceiving things right now. So you feel very supported, very tuned in to a relationship, to your career, to something that you have cooking in your life. Now, this can relate to actual money. Some of you are doing okay with your money. You're doing just fine, actually more than okay. If you're struggling a little bit with money, it does tell me that you're very tuned into what your needs are and what you have to do. There's no floundering in what's necessary for you right now, and you being aware of what's necessary for you right now. So that's really, really good, because there's a lot of direction with the 10 of Pentacles energy. Star card, beautiful. Star card is about healing. This is about healing. So for many of you, some of you may be starting a new job, a new trajectory on your path, and you're healing some past wounds that you had to pick up along the way from like lousy past jobs that you had, and you feel like you're really finally going in a good direction. For those of you having to do with relationship, this is telling me that there's healing in some area with someone who you're dealing with. Could be an intimate relationship, a family member, a friend, it doesn't really matter. But there's healing here. These are two fantastic cards to start. So that first was your situation, and this is what's crossing you. What's crowning you is the Six of Cups reverse. So you're missing somebody, Aries. You're missing someone or time period in your life that existed at one point. And this is the kind of nostalgia, though, that is bringing you back to a place that you may end up in your mind's eye glorifying in a way and putting those rose-colored glasses on, but they really don't deserve it. So if you're thinking about a relationship that you were involved in and you're remembering, as we do tend to do this sometimes, it's just part of the human condition, right? We remember the good, especially when some time has passed. You know, it's so much easier to remember the good after, you know, when some time has passed, but you want to remember they're in your past for a reason. And this energy does always suggest they're better off staying back there. This is not about, you know, the Six of Cups upright is about reconnection and reconciliation, but in the reverse, it indicates somebody's probably going to try to come back. All right. If you're coming to this reading with a relationship on your heart and you're in no contact, this does indicate somebody's going to try to come back, but they're not good for you. For others of you, if you're in this space remembering back to a career that you had or some sort of, you know, dynamic thing that you did once upon a time, and you're trying to recreate that. So say for those of you who are creative types and you're thinking back to something that you wrote at one time that was really successful, but you can't seem to get that juice back, right? That creative energy, and you're thinking back to that. Well, that's not meant to be revisited. Whatever creative thing that you produced in the past is meant to stay back there and just reserve its own beautiful space in the history of your life, in the history of your heart. But you're meant to actually change the angle and the positioning of your mindset right now. So it's thinking back, but understand you're thinking back and you're remembering things a little too positively. So this is about really bringing yourself into the present. Now, in the foundation energy, we have the King of Wands reverse. So as your foundation, there's this lack of willingness and this fear to move forward. There's this delay, because wands are will, right, and motivation, and in the reverse, especially the King energy. So some of you might be dealing with a lot of resistance from someone in your life. So if this is a relationship, you could be with someone who creates a lot of resistance in your life, and you feel that they're holding you back in some way. In some way, you're not able to manifest the path that you're ultimately meant to be on because they're either very negative or they're just not being supportive in the way that you need, and there's a delay. For others of you, there can be a delay because of your own fears, you know. Because again, the wands are wells. So there's this lack of willingness, but there's also this delay. So this could be, King of Wands could also be, you have the well, right? Because as those of you who've been watching me know, I found a lot of value in tarot cards when they're reversed. That's why I don't like to turn them all upright, because I feel like these are areas that you really need to pay attention to, and you have free will, and free will can turn any reversal right side up. So for many of you, I feel like you may just be in a space of getting your ducks in a row, trying to maybe get financing together or whatever, but it's this, you're in this space. I do feel like many of you really need to hear this dark wound message, because I feel like there's this lack of willingness, there's this lack of, I'm just not going to be able to do that. Everybody else gets to do that, or everybody else has this, or this is just not going to happen. And not to sound like a 5-year-old, because I'm not, because the way I just said it, I felt like I sounded like a 5-year-old. But it's this self-doubt is really what I meant to say. See where you are in your past. In your past, beautiful foundation. This is about 4 of Wands. It's a beautiful energy about foundation. It's a card of engagement. It's a card of marriage. It's the card of celebration. Yay, we're starting something new. Things are going well for us, right? So you were in a space in the past where you were feeling really optimistic about a relationship, really optimistic about your career path. Beautiful. And in the future, the near future, we have the Lovers card. Okay, this is great, whether it's relationship or work. So having to do with work, this could be you connecting with like-minded people. It could be a business partner or a group of people where you feel like you guys are all on the same page, right? This is about soul connection, right? The origination of the Lovers card was really not, here it's a man and a woman. Obviously it could be 2 men, 2 women. It doesn't matter, like, genders, but about, like, intimate here, right? Now is how we most commonly refer to it. But originally when this tarot card was created, it was just about soul connection. And we could be soulmates to our siblings, to our friends, to our business partners. It's about having this soul intention, this similar intention. So I really like this. As far as career goes, it means you're going to be with people who are very like-minded. Obviously in relationships, super awesome, because this is about you and your significant other not riding off into the sunset, which is what I really like about the Lovers card. There's such a burst of reality here. It's about recognizing where you guys have some conflict, right, with those clouds. But you have blessings, you have angelic blessings, you have the blessing here, it's the moon, but typical Rider-Waite, it's the sun, it doesn't matter, it's a luminary. The blessing, your process of you guys figuring out your conflicts and who needs to do what. What do you need? What do I need? It's this understanding and this willingness, a definitive willingness to work things out. So positive right there. So let's pull this last row of 4 to indicate where you are right now, you personally, an external influence, a fear, and an outcome. Beautiful. Aries, what a nice reading this is. You have some fear in there, but you know what? I get it. So you are the Queen of Swords right now. Aries, listen, I feel like some of you are, let me say this. It's like you're not telling yourself the truth about yourself. Like, don't beat yourself up in a word fight, as they say. Because the swords are about truth. It's words, but it's about truth. And in the reverse, I'm getting that there's this lack of truth. There's this lack of honesty going on here. I feel like because it's representing you, I feel like you're not being honest with yourself about something. Now, if this has to do with a relationship, maybe you're not being honest with how things have rolled out thus far and what's really necessary to make things happen, or what your role in the relationship and the dynamic needs to be. What are your responsibilities? And maybe you're not really wanting to look at that, or you're not wanting to face the fact that the person you're with isn't bringing everything to the table, and you're kind of ignoring it on a certain level because you really want it to work. But I do feel like there's this level of almost like playing mind games with yourself. You not wanting to be totally honest about the process of a project or the process of a job. But you have to really get in touch with what's real, what's not, and where your insecurities driving these conclusions that you might be coming to. Because again, going back to this full moon energy too, just know that not everything is going to make perfect sense or seem completely rational, right, during this time. But I do feel like that this has to do with a lack of honesty, or a lack of, this could even be a lack of clarity about what you actually want for yourself and what you actually see. So you might have a number of situations that are being presented to you. You're just not really sure of exactly what your truth is. But, the other side of that is that we do ultimately end up telling ourselves the truth. Just make sure that it's based in truth, right? Just make sure that it's based in truth. And the reason I'm saying that here is because we have the Four of Pentacles reversed. This is about not being willing to open up. It's a miserly energy. There's almost like a sense of greed here, but having to do with the Pentacle. Yes, it could have to do with money, but Pentacle is also how we connect emotionally, physically, and mentally. So for those of you with relationships, are you not being honest with yourself about either how you've been showing up mentally, emotionally, physically, having to do with resources in a connection? Or are you not being honest about how somebody else is showing up and understanding that maybe there needs to be conversation here about that? Or some of you may be having to do with the job, really not wanting to understand, or not understand, accept the fact that this project that you're taking on, it may not be offering you the money that it wants. So there may be some sort of issue about money coming and going and support coming and going, and it just not being on point to where it should be. So that's really the idea, whether it has to do with career or whether it has to do with relationship, this idea of just not dealing with a miserly energy, not wanting to open up, not wanting to communicate. We're not having the communication, not having the connection, not having the support that you feel like you ultimately need. Now, this could certainly be for many of you who are maybe starting in some sort of artistic endeavor, starting a whole new trajectory on your career, and you're not getting the support from the people around you in the way that you wish you had, you could. Do you know what I mean? But either way, relationship or career, it's this idea of not really wanting to look at how you're not really getting everything that you want and need at this point. But you know what, guys? Communication can fix that. Your fear is the Empress reverse. I mean, this makes so much sense to me because the Empress is the mother of the zodiac. She's perpetually pregnant, always producing and creating. And your fear is that whatever it is that you're working on, whether it is this relationship or whether it is a project that you're trying to cultivate, that it's not going to come to fruition. And that's a fear. That's pretty obvious there. But the outcome is the sun. It's just going to take a minute. Guys, whatever you're working on is really going to end up beautiful because the sun is it's the happiest, most illuminated card in the deck, and it's still 100% positive, reversed. The reversal of the sun only means that you have to go through a process before you get here. So, I mean, this is really beautiful. Let's just pull. For this Queen of Swords reverse and Four of Pentacles, what is it that Aries may not want to admit to themselves or see right now? Okay. Okay. All right. This makes sense. So the Nine of Wands is about recognizing what you've been up to this point, right? If this has to do with a relationship, you guys being on a hamster wheel, back and forth, or maybe you just had a lot of trials and tribulations within your relationship, and there was a lot of arguing, but you're still willing to fight. Nine of Wands is I still got juice left in me for this. I'm still all about it. Nine of Cups is about dreams coming true, but in the reverse, it just indicates that there might be some ego in the way of that happening. And again, the reversals, we have free will. We can turn those right side up. You're just about recognizing that somebody might be misusing their ego. Three of Cups energy reverse is an irresponsible energy. This could be somebody who might be losing themselves in a little bit too much partying, maybe some irresponsible flirting. Doesn't mean that they're doing anything with that, but just some irresponsible behavior, And I feel like for those of you Maybe if you're in a business partnership, you're wondering how responsible is this business partner actually. If you're in an intimate relationship, you're just not really digging something that your partner's doing right now. You feel like they're not being completely on board with something, that there's an ego involved. Maybe they're going out a lot and you're saying this something to them and they're giving you nonsense about it, or maybe you're doing this and you're getting nonsense about it back from your partner. But it has to do with some temporary irresponsible behavior here. But I don't feel like this is becoming like a major issue. I feel like there's an issue here right now with relationship where you feel like you're not getting what you need, and there's like you guys are not connecting 100% right here. Right? Okay, but look at this. The Lovers is your future. And this is where you're at right now. So that's why I'm not really that worried about it, because the Lovers implies communication happening and you guys working things out. So, I mean, I like this spread, man. This is a good spread for you guys. Very good. I like it. So let's pull some relationship oracles. We'll start with those of you who are in a weird space. No contact. You're just not really together. You're just not really together. Okay. Pull a little crowning and then a couple of Phoenix. New phase. Addiction. Lightning. Phoenix. New phase. Rekindling. Renewed transformation. Growth. Changed mind. Okay. Addiction, codependent, obsession, possession, controlling has a black restraint. Lightning is a sudden change, shocking news, surprise, epiphany, transformation. So those of you who are in no contact, this does seem to me that there is going to be some sort of epiphanies happening. There's going to be a transformation. There's going to be a rekindling. And you guys need to talk about any sort of codependent behavior, any sort of issues with restrictions, anything with addiction. Now, addiction could be to substances, alcohol, to any sort of, drugs, but could also be to sex, food, money, anything like that, or just really low vibe thinking. Really low vibe thinking, but beautiful. Beautiful. I mean, for those of you, it'd be nice. A lot of you guys are going to be getting back together and figuring your stuff out before the holidays. Let's pull a few cards for those of you who are in long-term relationships right now. We don't know. Camera. Separation. Girl talk. Why do these keep coming out, man? This is nuts. Camera is about reminiscing, perception, learning from the past, making memories. Girl talk. Time with friends, moving on, happily single, living in the moment, having fun. Separation, missing you, sadness, thinking about you, yearning, unsure of future. Those of you who've been in a long-term relationships, you guys are in a weird space. You're in a weird space where you're taking a minute out. Doesn't mean that you guys are broken up, but you guys are taking a minute out. You're going, doing your own thing with your friends. Maybe you're throwing yourself into work, going off even by yourself. It doesn't really matter, but it's about not wanting to deal with the issues. Not wanting to deal with the issues. And you're going to end up in the space of reminiscing. Yeah, and we had that Six of Cups reversed. Those of you who are in a long-term relationship that you've been together for a long time, don't start losing yourself in memories of your past. Don't do that. Don't get into the space of like missing some, being unsure of your future because of your past kind of thing. All right? Really don't do that. Let me just pull one card here. Temperance. All right. So those of you who have been in a long-term relationship, you guys need to have a conversation having to do with temperance. Temperance is the alchemical card. It's about establishing what you each need in order to move into this next cycle, because we all are, right, with this full moon in Gemini. So I feel like you guys are in a weird space. You're kind of both in your corners. There's not a lot of communication. You're together, but there's weirdness. And you're like missing each other, even though I'm feeling like you're together. There's just, you guys are in a really bad space. And I feel like a lot of you are thinking back to somebody from your past and you're glorifying that and comparing it to your future. And if you're doing that, don't do that. This is about really recognizing what you each need in order to grow together, because I feel like you're not right now. This is like one cup's what you need, one cup's what they need, and just figuring things out. And there's a sense of healing about the Temperance card, because there's a truth here. It's about admitting what you each need and where you feel like the support isn't quite there enough, or you're not quite getting what you want enough. But the energy here